all for coming. I am especially so excited. First of all, the most amazing thing to me is the resolve that I've seen in Elizabeth and meeting her family, just an amazing family. You know, it's just a very inspiring thing to have witnessed such a difficulty that the family has faced, but just how the whole family has responded, and in particular Elizabeth. So I think it's going to, well, to me, I really wanted to hear about what makes Elizabeth Elizabeth, you know, and I don't know what she named her, but I was, you know, I would have suggested that. What makes Elizabeth Elizabeth? Anyway, without further ado, I will ask Elizabeth to come up and give us her presentation. Elizabeth?
The nurse faced my bed toward the ICU window. Outside, my brother, dad, and best friend stood looking into my ICU room on that dark, chilly evening. Inside, my mom held the phone. She, the only one allowed to be with me during the COVID-19 lockdown. A white sheet covered me from chin to feet, hiding my extensive injuries. On December 4, 2020, flying a towered solo for my private pilot's license, something went wrong. The plane fell from the sky. Crashing 100 yards from the airport fire stations, rescue crews saved my life. Outside the ICU window, loved ones spoke into the phone despite my stillness and silence, eyes sewn shut from an 11-hour facial reconstruction surgery, and silence from being on a ventilator. Yet hearing their voices through the phone brought deep comfort. Knowing their presence stood only a few feet away on the other side of the glass, I remember now, tears brimming, they traveled an hour that cold winter night to see me broken, assure me I would get better, and tell me I looked radiant. My name is Elizabeth Witte, age 17, and this is my story. To this day, the plane crash is still under investigation. I will tell you about my plane crash journey and, as Frank put it, hopefully answer how I do what I do. Before my plane crash, life was at its best. I enjoyed studying piano, violin, and guitar, singing in choirs, leading worship, educating kids in music, and mentoring in youth orchestras. Amazing performance opportunities included singing at the Walt Disney Concert Hall and performing with professional music group The Piano Guys. Life got even better once my journey in aviation began. I was introduced to aviation when I went to a homeschool fair where I ran across a booth called the Coachella Valley Youth Aviation Education Program. This nonprofit youth program offered free ground instruction and free flight hours. As a go-getter, I was like, who wouldn't want to fly a plane? Such a bucket list item. Little did I know after my first intro flight that the bug bit me and there was no going back. Conflicted about future career paths, I knew right after my flight, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So you may ask, how did I become interested in flying? Following my flight, I experienced many successes in aviation, including completing ground training, passing the private pilot written exam, and receiving 2 scholarships, AOPA You Can Fly High School Flight Training Scholarship, and the EAA Richard R. Harper Memorial Scholarship. These scholarships fully paid for my flight training, and to this day, I haven't paid a dime. During my flight training, I completed my first solo, my second solo, my cross-country solo flight, and I logged over 50 flight hours. When I crashed, I only had the towered solo, which is when I crashed, and my long cross-country flight before I could get my license. I graduated high school at age 16 and continued to pursue my studies at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University Worldwide in their BS in Aeronautics program. Along with maintaining a 4.0 GPA, I received the Freshman Achievement Scholarship and belong to the new EAA Chapter Honor Society. The dream was to fly fast corporate jets, and I tasted my dream last December when a pilot friend took me up in his jet on a corporate flight. Little did I know that later that same day I would say goodbye to that dream on a training flight that would change my life. So, I've been asked, what do you remember about that day? That day, December 4, 2020, at Palm Springs International Airport, I planned to complete a milestone, the towered solo, for my private pilot's license in a Cessna 172. Pretty sure you guys all know what that entails, but that means 3 takeoffs and landings, taxiing back to the runway, and repeating these steps, all while communicating with ATC. I flew from here, Jacqueline Cochran Regional Airport, with my flight instructor to Palm Springs International Airport. We completed a couple full stop landings, and when he felt like I was ready, I dropped him off at one of the nearby terminals. Getting up in the air, I completed 2 full stop landings. My mom was still at the thermal airport here waiting for me. And so between my flights, I would text her 1 down, 2 to go, and then 2 down, 1 to go. I love you. This was the last time I texted her for a very long time. I only remember a 3rd takeoff and then the plane falling. A couple thoughts raced through my head as the plane fell. Oh God, please don't let me hit the ATC tower. That could mean casualties. And 2, this could be it. But as the plane was falling, I had this immediate peace that this was just the next step in my journey. The plane nosedived into the runway. First responders extricated me from the plane, my body covered in jet fuel and blood, and transported me to the nearby trauma center. Triggering media attention, local news reported my rescue, and camera crews from A&E filmed my rescue for their show, Live Rescue. My injuries included 2 broken legs, a severed tendon in my left hand, multiple contusions, and a completely shattered face. I sustained no life-threatening injuries to my brain, spinal cord, or internal organs. Trauma teams immediately intubated me for sedation to undergo scans and surgeries. Connected to a ventilator for 18 days in ICU, I breathed through a trach tube in my neck, ate through a G-tube in my stomach, and underwent multiple surgeries for a 2-week period to put my broken body back together. Secondary issues included double pneumonia on a ventilator, deep tissue injuries on my feet, heavy hallucinations and side effects from the medications, and hair loss from trauma. Ongoing injuries today include double vision, digestive reflux issues, dental restoration, loss of smell, and PT for my left ankle. Declaring my life a miracle, doctors said I will make a full recovery. I'm also asked, what is the next thing you remember? Well, the last thing I remember was the plane falling. After 2 weeks sedated, I woke up unable to see, with eyes sewn shut from an 11-hour facial reconstruction surgery, was overly sensitive hearing from brain trauma, and breathing supported by a machine, and feeling pain everywhere. Although I didn't understand the extent of my injuries, I survived. I knew immediately that I had survived a plane crash. It was like, oh yay, I'm alive, and oh shoot, this is gonna be hard. After listening to the noises in the room, I realized my mom was there with me. She was the only person allowed, again, during the COVID-19 lockdown, and she faithfully stayed with me 24/7 in ICU, on the floors, and in rehab. In the beginning, I communicated with my mom by trying to write an alphabet letter on a pillow and slowly spelling out the words. And after a couple days of that, the nurses gave me paper, a clipboard, and a marker to write blind. And that's how I communicated because I was unable to speak while on a trach. In the beginning, I had to accept that I was still alive. Feeling so broken, I wondered if it was really worth living. Would I ever be the same again? It took needing to accept that I was alive at that moment for a reason to keep going. Having no medical issues in the past, I didn't understand what my body was going through. The medical issue that challenged me the most was my breathing through a trach tube in my neck. When trying to go to sleep every night, I couldn't understand how I was breathing. What if my breathing stopped? How does this metal tube and Darth Vader sounding mask really help me breathe? I needed to focus on the fact that I was here for a reason and trust that I'd wake up in the morning. During ICU in my time on the hospital floors, I struggled with memory loss. Honestly, I couldn't remember the basic things like what my own middle name was. The doctor told me that the trauma to my brain, along with the medications, would cause temporary memory loss. It was ironic that I could remember that I crashed a plane, but couldn't remember what my bedroom at home looked like. For example, my mom asked if there was anything I'd like from my bedroom at home for my hospital room. And I told her, please ask Dad to take pictures of my room so I could remember what it looked like. Worried about not remembering how to play piano, forgetting my friends, and losing my own identity, I wondered if I'd have to start from the beginning again. Thankfully, that was all temporary, and my memory loss has been restored. People ask, what made the most significant impact on my recovery? And the answer is, people did. People made the incredible difference in my recovery. At the hospital, a nurse visited me after her 10-hour-long shift to bring me checkers from the gift shop and play a few games with me. Unable to speak, barely see, or even sit up for long, she expressed care that uplifted my human dignity in a very vulnerable state. A friend and medical transport pilot visited me during the COVID shutdown by shining his helicopter strobe light into my room on his flights, transporting patients to and from the hospitals. He did this on both Christmas Day and New Year's Eve. And you know what? This meant the world to me because I couldn't celebrate the holidays with my family. His visits made my holidays special, and I felt closer to home. While in the hospital, people sent me flowers. I couldn't smell or really see them, but it meant the world to me. I received flowers from my local 99 group, Bible study group, friends, and even my college math teacher. On my way to rehab in the ambulance, the EMT actually knew about my story, and it was his colleagues who had rescued me. He told me about my accident and how he had been praying for me that day. In rehab, the physical therapist helped me regain my confidence and independence to be able to go home. Also in rehab, my choir director, aviation mentors, and worship pastors called me to show their love and support. Coming home after 7 weeks in the hospital, my neighbors made a homecoming parade complete with music, blow horns, banners, music, flowers, and overwhelming presents and joy. Today, I have cards and art from all my little babysitting kiddos hanging on my walls. And I know EAA wrote a newsletter about my recovery as well that I've hung on my wall, and that has meant the world to me. Walking, talking, eating, breathing, playing music, and schooling all at once in immediate jeopardy proved restored now 11 months later. I didn't get here on my own. Why did people make the most significant impact? The reason is because our lives are connected with one another, and they impact each other in meaningful ways. Though everyone may not experience a tragic plane crash, everybody goes through hard times, and this levels the playing fields for suffering. Helping each other in suffering, persevering through adversities together, and living life connected to one another strengthens the hope to face the future with confidence. So Frank asked, how do I do what I do? Number one, stay positive. What helped me endure was having a positive attitude. Doctors tell me all the time that they're amazed by my positive attitude. As it's said, a joyful heart is good medicine. I'm generally always a positive and optimistic person, unless it comes to dating and relationships. Then I'm always skeptical. Anyways, every day I make the choice to smile, even in pain or on a bad day, hoping that tomorrow will be better, and knowing my smile affects people around me helps me make the choice to stay positive every day. Number 2, make every day count. Knowing I'm on my second chance at life makes living to the fullest a top priority. Life was almost snatched away from me once, and I won't let another moment get away. When a person settles the matter of death, then the person is ready to live and serve. I've settled the matter of death. For me, it's nothing to fear. It will happen when it happens, and because of my faith, I know where I'm going next. For this reason, knowing I'm living out my second chance, I'm ready to serve even more fully. Number 3, take one step at a time. Recovery's taught me to take one step at a time. Literally, there was a day where I could only take one step at a time. And today, I take everything in baby steps. At PT, it's one more rep, or an extra few seconds trying to run. Or for school, completing one assignment at a time. The key is to always move forward. There are times I go backwards, but I must choose to not freeze where I am and boldly take the next step forward in my recovery. Number 4, life is short. Life is short, and it can change suddenly. Everyone has experienced an event that reminds us that this life is temporary. But as a young teenager, life is short wasn't really on my radar. The plane crash has shown me, because life is short. Do the right thing now. Going forward, I will keep the perspective to not look too far ahead into the future or back into the past, because the truth is right now is what matters most. I live by the motto, do the right thing now. All that's promised is now. I want to be the best person I can be for the people around me. Lastly, and number 5, practice gratitude. Practicing gratitude helps me heal. Knowing how far I've come makes tough moments not feel so bad. When I think back to when I was in the ICU and on the floors, I'm like, thank you, I'll take today. Practicing gratitude for me means thanking God for what He's done and what He's given me, thanking others for what they've done, and in response, helping those around me. I've been asked, what are your future plans? Prior to the plane crash, my dream to become a pilot took flight. On December 4, 2020, that dream crashed with the plane. Life also taught me redirects are okay. Author Melanie Rain wrote, sometimes life takes you on a journey that changes everything you thought you wanted. The plane crash made me consider an interest I hadn't thought of before, engineering. Last month, I switched my degree from aeronautics to engineering with the goal to graduate with a master's in aerospace engineering. I know the question burning in your head right now. What about flying? Will you ever fly again? The answer is yes, absolutely. Through my recovery, I've made the decision to lay down flying as a career and pursue it recreationally through life. To get a license, there are many milestones that require solo flights, and I prefer to always fly with another pilot. I already have a list of pilots. Many of them are you who offer to take me up flying, and I am so grateful for you. But this is just a secret between you and me. I've been ready to fly since I woke up in the ICU. But out of respect for my family and those invested in my recovery, I just choose to postpone flying for now. I'm still just as in love with the aviation aerospace industry as before, but maybe instead of serving in the air, I'll support on the ground. In closing, I would like to thank everyone for coming today and listening. I just want to give a shout out to a couple special guests who came today. First of all, Cheyenne, thank you so much for coming today. She was in the ATC tower on the day I crashed, and she called 911. It was by her quick decision that I believe I'm standing here today. So thank you, Cheyenne. You mean the world to me. I also want to thank Mr. Nishan from Mercy Air. He's the helicopter pilot who's shown his strobe light into my room on Christmas and New Year's Eve, and he made my holidays special. Thank you. I also want to thank Paula and David Shapiro for coming today from Bermuda Dunes. I would visit Bermuda Dunes in crutches and a walker. I don't know why I did that, but with so much love, they supported me and let me watch planes every Sunday, and were there to support and tell me I was healing and looking beautiful. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much. I want to thank Pam for coming today. From the beginning of my journey, the 99s has supported me, so thank you so much for coming today. And lastly, I want to thank Frank. I met Frank in the beginning of my recovery journey here, and he has been so supportive. So Frank, I appreciate you. And lastly, I want to thank all of you here in the EAA. You gave me my first flight scholarship, helped me get on my way, and today you continue to support me. So thank you for all you do in supporting this EAA. I appreciate you. And lastly, I'm always open to questions. I know some of you are like scared to ask, but ask me anything and I am more than willing to answer to the best of my ability. What's going on, Pam?
What's your middle name?
My middle name's Grace. And I believe it's by the grace of God that I'm standing here today, so I think it's a worthy name. Any other questions? I'm open to anything. Or not, we can just chat later. It's fine. Well, thank you so much for coming today.